Welcome to Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association. You can find us at LCARA.net, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram. If you're enjoying the videos we're producing here at LCARA, please help our club out by hitting that subscribe button. Also, give us some feedback on our videos. Click the like button, share with anybody who may find it interesting, and be sure and hit the bell icon to make sure you get notified of the next video release. Hello folks, this is Chris KY4CKP, and today we're going to take a look at installing the ICom UT-133a Bluetooth module into the main body housing of the ICom ID-5100a. This module can be used in a number of radios, and there's another module as well, but this is the one that I have for the 5100, and we want to take a look at doing the install and giving some Bluetooth capability with this radio. It's a fairly easy process, but like all things, if you're not comfortable taking the screws out of the case of your radio and opening up your radio, you could certainly have a shop do this and take the burden off yourself. But it's really not too difficult, and we just want to, as always, take our time, stay organized in our work, and watch out for ESD, electrostatic discharge. Of course, this time of year in summer, with lots of humidity in the air, at least here in central Kentucky, electrostatic discharge is not a terrible problem. In the wintertime, almost anywhere, it certainly tends to get a lot worse. So it's a real small little board. You can see it here, kind of a tiny little board, about like a thumb drive size, and they give you a little manual and a little sticker that you can put on your radio to give a little bit of a warning that now there's an additional type of radio device in the chassis. And again, the installation procedure is pretty simple, as we'll see in a moment. There are 8 screws we're going to remove. 4 top and bottom. The housing for the radio is kind of a clamshell. There's a top and a bottom. They're kind of mirrored, and there's 4 screws on the top, 4 screws on the bottom, and then there's a total of 8 screws on each side. So to take off one part of the case, in this case we want to take off the bottom part of the case, you're going to remove a total of 8 screws, 4 on the bottom and 4 on each side, and we'll kind of be showing that here in just a moment. So it's not real difficult. Just be careful, don't lose any of the screws, of course. Try to use an appropriate screwdriver so we don't mar up the screws and mangle them up in any way, stripping them out or anything like that. They're held in sometimes fairly decently from the factory. So here we're just kind of showing, this was the top of the radio, so of course we had to backtrack and flip it over to the bottom, but we're taking out the screws, and we'll be seeing that in just a moment. Which, of course, again, it's not a very difficult procedure, but again, there's 4 on the bottom, and then 4 on the sides, 2 on each side that we'll take out. And the top and the bottom are a mirror of each other, so it is the same if you are going to take off the top for something, which we accidentally did here, but that's okay. We just put them right back in and flipped it over. And once you do that, again, like we'll see here in just a moment, you see that there's a little area pre-designed for the Bluetooth module to go into. So we're going to dig into the interior of this in just a moment, so we'll bring you folks right back. All right, so here we can see we're now on the bottom of the radio, taking out the screws once again. Again, not difficult, just try to have an appropriately sized screwdriver and take the 4 on the flat side of the bottom, 2 on the left side, 2 on the right side. And it may take just a little bit of careful effort to sort of prise the metal case apart. It just slides off, but mine was fitted pretty tightly, so I just would just carefully pried it up around the edges, and it popped right off. And it'll become probably relatively obvious where you're going to be installing the Bluetooth unit. Again, we've got some pictures coming up that certainly shows it clearly. But once you get the bottom off, there's, again, it's a pretty obvious location where it's going to go. It has a socket that we're going to be plugging into, and it has an area in the housing sort of designed for it to slip into right near the edge so that it can transmit even though it's inside the sort of metal housing and everything. Yeah, they wanted to make sure it could transmit and get the most distance out of it, because Bluetooth is a relatively low power, relatively short distance type of radio receiver. So we saw the bottom. Here's the sides, and you can see that there's 4 screws on each side, 2 for the top, 2 for the bottom. So again, we're only taking out the screws relating to the bottom of the unit. You don't have to take the other 8 screws out. And take them out left side, right side, bottom, and again, you can kind of see it here. This case was fitted together very, very firmly, very nicely, and I just very carefully used a flathead screwdriver to just kind of work my way around just to help raise that case off so it would slip right off, and then it did, just slipped right off. So not a big deal. Again, just take your time. It's a very simple project, and don't have to be in a hurry. It's not going to take you an hour to do this. It's only going to take a few minutes. So once we take that case off, this is the inside of the unit. Might look a little bit busy, but we're not gonna have to mess with very much of this at all. If in the picture here, if you look, which for us would be the bottom right-hand corner, you should be able to see that there's sort of a little pale off-white socket and a little stainless steel kind of a clip in a horseshoe, sort of a horseshoe shape, all the way down there in the bottom right corner. That's where the Bluetooth unit's going to go. So there's a screw that's holding that stainless steel retaining clip in. Just take that off. The little retaining clip comes up. That gives you complete access to the little socket right there that the Bluetooth module has a mate that'll plug into it. And then when you see that front edge of the case right there, the plastic housing, again, there's a little built-in recess right there for part of the body and the transmitter of the Bluetooth module. It just sort of slips in there. They designed in a little cavity for it to go into. Make sure the plug and the socket match up. Carefully just seat that in, and then you just take that stainless steel retaining clip and screw it back down, and it just holds the Bluetooth module firmly in place. So we'll kind of see some shots of that and some close-ups of that as we go along. So again, it's a pretty simple installation, and we don't have to worry about all the rest of the stuff that's going on with this motherboard right here. You can take a quick look at it, but thankfully we don't have to get into anything too deep. It's just right here. Take the case off, slip it in there carefully, and then you just put the case right back on. So as a do-it-yourself type project, this is definitely not very hard. Maybe a 2 on the 10-point scale or something, maybe a 1. So there's kind of a close-up of that little area I'm talking about. It was sort of in the bottom right side. You can see the little socket right there, and the stainless steel little sort of retaining clip with 1 screw that holds it in. And we'll get a different angle in a moment and kind of try to show off. It was kind of hard to get a picture, but try to show off the little cavity that in this picture it's at the very bottom, or what is the front of the radio. And it's just built right in. They designed it right in so that the little board can slip right in there, and helps kind of get it out from the metal housing a little bit. So again, it can transmit and get at least more of the distance that Bluetooth. Again, Bluetooth is kind of a low power transmission and protocol. So you're normally looking at about 30 feet, give or take. With this design, you might not get a full 30 feet. There's always going to be some factors there, but hopefully this design would at least allow you to get 15, 20 feet out of it. And for the radio, if you're in your car, if you're at your shack, it's not necessarily something that's going to let you wander around the yard or wander around the house, but they do have, as we'll see a little bit later, a Bluetooth headset you can use with this, and they also have an application for phones and tablets, and we'll just take a real brief look at that. We'll end up taking a more in-depth look at the application a little bit later. I'll do a separate video on that. It looks like it has quite a few functions of the radio available, but not exactly everything either. And I don't know if continuing development will bring in some additional configuration possibilities or not, but it does give you some control over the radio. And again, we'll take a look at that in a separate video. So again, we're just taking a look at the socket right there. I just wanted to show it's just that 1 screw that holds in that retaining clip So Phillips head screw. So we just take that out, move the retaining clip out of the way. Then we can slip in the Bluetooth module itself. And again, as far as handling goes, just be careful. And if you want to wear a wrist strap, they have wrist straps that are designed to help drain off electrical charges when you're handling sensitive equipment. I'm just sort of personally in the habit. I'm always touching the metal objects around me to help ground myself and just not moving very much. You don't want to be shuffling your feet on the carpet a whole bunch and that kind of stuff as you're doing this. And I've never really had a problem. I used to work in the manufacturing area, although I'm in IT, and we had all that kind of equipment on the manufacturing floor. But really, for the most part, if you're aware of the problem, and again, touch some metal objects and don't move around a whole bunch once you're ready to work, you're usually going to be fine. Now here's a shot where I'm trying to kind of show you. I think you can kind of see it. There's sort of that little cavity in the plastic housing, which would be it's at the top of this picture, but it's the front of the radio. And just to kind of show you a little better, it's got a little place to slip into because when you line up the plug in the socket, uh, not that the Bluetooth unit's very big, it's not very big at all. Again, a little bit bigger than a typical thumb drive or something, but it needs some place to go, so it has room, and so they made that little cavity there, which also helps get the transmitter a little bit outside and away from the main part of the metal housing. So it just kind of slips right into this little cavity right here, match up the plug and the socket, gently press them together. Shouldn't take a ton of force there, and should kind of pop right in. Again, when we're ready to actually do that, as we'll see in a little bit, we'll have removed this little stainless steel retaining clip with that one screw, and you just slip it right in there, and just kind of check it, make sure everything looks good. Put the retaining clip back on, and we can put the metal housing back in with the 8 screws. So again, as a do-it-yourself project, this is a pretty simple one, but I certainly understand some folks they just don't want to start attacking the screws on a device, whatever the device is, and these are not inexpensive devices to be sure. So I'm sure you could always get a shop to do this for you. I'm a pretty handy do-it-yourself kind of a person, and I'm not usually too afraid to take a look at something. If I had taken the screws off of this and said, nope, I don't think I want to go any further, I would have put them right back in. So here's just kind of showing the module in place. You can hopefully tell that the stainless retaining clip has been removed. I've just slipped the little module component into that cavity, lined up its plug in the socket on the motherboard there, gently pressed them into place. So again, very simple procedure, not anything complicated. And then again, just seat the retaining clip back in place, uh, screw it down back to the main board there. And again, when you're screwing that back in, you don't have to, as we used to say, monkey grip it or anything. Just get it down snug. That's all you have to do. Um, Even as a mobile unit, uh, you're probably not gonna. Most of us are not doing hardcore rock crawling and things like that. Just get it nice and snug. You don't have to uh, crank it down so hard that it may never come back off again because you don't want to crack the boards or anything like that. So you can see right there, it slips right into that little cavity. And again, I think that's designed specifically to help get the transmitter a little bit away from the metal housing, just so we can get a little better range out of it. And then you just put the clip back on, which is what we'll see here in just a moment. So a pretty simple project. Um, the unit itself, the Bluetooth module there, the UT-133a, it's available from most of the usual suspects, Amazon and others, almost any of the regular, at least here in the U.S., kind of the retail places where you can buy ham radio gear and that kind of stuff. Um, Somewhere around $80. It's not real inexpensive, and I'm not sure completely how much I'll use it, but I was very intrigued to consider maybe being able to do some things with my phone or tablet with the Bluetooth unit. I'm not sure if I'm interested in the headset yet, but might look at that later. So I decided to go ahead and put it in there as kind of a one-time operation. So here's kind of a side view of that. It's sitting in the socket. You can see that little daughter board right there. and going into that cavity. The cavity sort of on the left-hand side. Apparently the flash didn't go off on this picture, but I think you can kind of see it there. And so again, it's not a hard procedure. It doesn't take very long. Just don't be in a hurry. Take your time. Uh, I'm in the habit of touching metal file cabinets and metal racks and stuff a lot. I've just been doing it for so many years with working on computers personally and professionally and other kinds of electronics. Excuse me. So I just do that, and I've never had a problem. I don't think I've ever uh, killed a piece of equipment through ESD. It's not that that's not possible. It certainly is. But if you're aware of it and you take some even relatively minimal level of precautions, you can usually be okay. All right, so in the next picture, got a little bit of lighting on it. You can kind of see that the little daughter board is sitting there, in the socket. Stands off the motherboard. I don't know, maybe that's a quarter inch, a little bit less. And you can kind of see how, again, going from the center to the left, it kind of goes into that little pocket recess that they built in for it. And again, we're just going to put the stainless steel retaining clip back in, firm down the screw there, and you just put the metal housing back on with the 8 screws. So certainly something that you could consider attempting on your own if you wish. I wanted to do it with my radio, and so I just wanted to go ahead and document this. There's probably some other resources that may do it as well. But for any of those slightly more adventurous, do-it-yourself type folks, um, for the ICom ID-5100a radio, mobile radio, uh, probably a pretty nice little do-it-yourself project. Not getting out a soldering gun, you're not getting out drills and hacksaws and anything like that. So pretty clean, pretty simple project to consider. You can see the little retaining clip sitting right there in the picture in the bottom left, in fact. And we'll put that back in and see what that looks like here in this the next picture. So again, this kind of stuff. Some of us we find it kind of fun and cool to do. So now it's in place, and the stainless steel retaining clip is mounted back to the main board, and it's going to hold it just nice and firmly in place and not let it bounce around or bounce out of the socket if you are doing some mobile operations on some slightly rougher terrain. It should work just fine. So I buttoned this all back up, just the reverse of how we took it apart. As far as I could tell, all the screws, all the external screws appeared to be the same. It didn't appear that the ones on the side were any different from the ones on the bottom. So just button it back up nice and carefully, and it's working just fine. I'll do some testing with the again with the Bluetooth, the app that's available, and I believe it's on iOS as well, but I've got it on my Android phone, Android tablet. So I'll do a separate video to show off the app a little bit more and what it can or cannot do. Again, we'll see a picture of its sort of menu in a moment. It doesn't do everything. It doesn't let you control everything about the radio. Um, and this is just a picture of the Bluetooth headset that ICOM has available. The headset's not inexpensive. The module I think was 80 bucks or somewhere 85 bucks, somewhere in that range. This headset's not inexpensive. As of the publication of this video in 2020, it's running around $130 for this. For me, I don't know if I'll worry about getting this or not. We'll see in the future. It's not particularly high on my list right now, but certainly folks may be interested in that in particular. So it is available, and it'll work with multiple radios as long as you have. Um, there's two main Bluetooth units, and of course we're looking at the 133a this time. You can use it with different radios as long as it's a radio that has the Bluetooth units. Um, Not inexpensive. Of course, most things from ICOM are not terribly inexpensive, so we may be used to the ICOM level of sticker shock. Now, here's a picture of the app, and I just wanted to show this. Again, I'll do a video on this fairly soon coming up. But you can kind of look at the menu listings there, and probably get a feel for the fact it doesn't have everything the radio can do. I don't believe you can go into crossband repeat right from this app. or maybe even come out of crossband repeat from this app. But we'll take a more in-depth look at this a little bit later. It does have some things you can do with it which might come in handy. So we'll do a review of this app on its own and take a look at that. So that's pretty much it, folks. This is Chris KY4CKP for Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association 73.